Здравствуйте! Сегодня у нас в гостях Раиса. Она из Индонезии, и сегодня она нам расскажет о своем родном индонезийском языке. So, Raisa, explain me, how is the language situation in Indonesia? Is it like multilingual region or it's like monolingual region?
It is very much multilingual. We do have a lot of ethnicities. Like the biggest one with most people is Javanese, and then there's the Sundanese and Batak and a lot of ethnicities. Usually there are much smaller ethnicity groups in like the eastern parts of Indonesia, and we all speak different languages, but we have our uniting language. This is the Indonesian language. Indonesian language is especially important for the smaller ethnicities because they're small communities, but they have different languages. So I've heard of stories of the Indonesian language keeping peace between these ethnicities.
Oh, that's very important. I know that in Indonesian you have sounds. Do they look like Russian sounds, English sounds, or they are completely different? How do you think? You have zh, sh, ch, c, like in Russian, or it's more like, I don't know, Latin languages where they have like only ch or only l, not like zh, sh, sh, a lot of that kind of sounds.
Letter-wise, we definitely don't have like je, of course, but we're also influenced by Arabic language, right? And in Arabic, there's like sha and sho. If people are not very used to listening to them, maybe they don't notice the difference between sha and sho, but I think most Indonesians can. Some Arabic words are incorporated in Indonesian language, so I suppose they count as Indonesian sounds. S, yeah, je, absolutely not.
And j?
J, Jakarta. Well, I think the J sound, I don't know the influence, but it's definitely before the Dutch, probably, because at least the name Jakarta is actually from Jayakarta. Jayakarta is the name of a prince who conquered Jakarta, and he took it over from Portuguese occupation or something.
So you have two kinds of sh.
Sh and sh.
Like in Russian, but another difference. One casual question, because sometimes I hear that some Indonesian students mix like z and j. Is it really make sense, or it's like only my personal experience? Maybe it's important or it's not important, the difference between z and j?
Yeah, it is important. We do have different letters from it, like J and Z. A fun fact though, there is an ethnicity whose people are stereotypically because a lot of them actually have this, they cannot say F, V and Z. The Sundanese people, so sometimes some of them say zebra instead of zebra. Sometimes they, instead of saying F, they say P.
So they mix P and F.
No, I don't know. They can really say F or Z. Of course, there's not all of them, but like it's a lot joked about a lot that they can say it, and some of them, usually the older people, cannot say it or simply are not used to saying it.
Okay. And how Wikipedia says that in Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesa, it's not like Indonesian language, but it's something from Malaysian that came from Indonesia. Is it right or not?
It came from Malay, so I think it's like the ancestor language Malay, and maybe it branched to Malaysian and it branched to Indonesian. It is different from Malaysian, obviously. Modern Indonesian has a lot of influence from Javanese, and it also has a lot of influence from English, from Dutch and stuff like that. But like the Malay here is the root, so.
So you said that Indonesian was influenced by some different languages like Dutch and Javanese. Or Japanese?
Javanese, yeah.
Javanese, okay. But what more languages were the influences to the Indonesian languages? Like, I know that Arabic, it was important, and Dutch. What else? Maybe Sanskrit, maybe Pali, I don't know.
Sanskrit, yes, because I think there were a lot of Hindu and Buddha kingdoms in Indonesia. And even though I don't know what the words are, like if you ask me right now to mention a word that is influenced by Sanskrit, I will not know what to mention. Maybe I know dua. It is definitely influenced by Sanskrit. Maybe some Portuguese, like the word for cheese. I thought it was, maybe it came from Dutch, but the Indonesian word for cheese is keju. And I looked up, it's not Indonesian culture, so I suppose it's probably, this word is probably imported as well.
Definitely.
So I looked up and it's apparently from Portuguese queijo. So probably there's some influence from Portuguese.
Should be.
Portuguese as well. Spanish, we've never been occupied by Spanish, I think. English, yeah, definitely, especially after globalization, probably their language didn't really take root. Here, I mean like in Indonesia, their occupation wasn't so long, and I don't think it had considerable effect in the Indonesian language. And definitely Japanese and some languages from different ethnicities, but probably the biggest influencer from ethnicities is from Japanese, because at least at the time of the independence, like half of Indonesian people are Japanese, almost half.
And Japanese and Indonesian, they are completely different, or are they like the same origin, but no, they are different.
Japanese actually has their own script. But like not all people can read it. I cannot. And Japanese also has different levels, like the language of like the royals. We do have like a sultanate in Yogyakarta. So this province of Yogyakarta doesn't have elections to choose their governor, to choose their governor. They have a sultan who acts as a governor. Other provinces have elections, and he probably speaks High Japanese, and I think there are Middle Japanese and Low Japanese. I don't really understand. Personally, I came from the part of Java in which High Japanese probably isn't really a thing. East Java, Surabaya, it's stereotypically the harsher part of Java. They like to say a lot of stuff like the F word and stuff like that. But in Japanese, when younger people talk to older people, they usually use Higher Japanese. For example, like this word sleep, low Japanese is like turu, and I know this is middle of High Japanese. It's just what we say when we're talking to older people, sare.
As in Indonesia, you don't have this difference, that much difference.
Yeah, we don't. We just, well, if you just want to be more polite, we do have the T and V difference in Indonesia, but it's actually, the difference is more like German. Probably like in Dutch as well, but I don't speak Dutch, so but because German and Dutch is kind of similar sometimes. So the second person is informal is kamu, and formal is anda. Formal and plural is anda, and plural informal kalian.
Yes, but the idea that there are two levels is formal and informal, and in Japanese you have like whole language. Yes,
I think
with different lexis, with different verbs, different stuff. Yes, it's like completely different. You need to know like two languages to speak.
Kind of, yeah. If like a sultan or something wants to talk to like his, I don't know, in Yogyakarta they call it abdi dalam. It's like people who traditionally work for the sultan, I think, and he wants to be like more down to earth. He mixes the languages, and it's some kind of art that is hard to master. Yeah, so it's kind of, because sometimes you just kind of mix it together.
And sultan can talk to normal people, or it's like prohibited?
Yeah, of course. Again, I think, I mean, he's a governor. Or the president is basically normal people to him. He's not royal, right?
Okay. No, it's interesting because it's like so unusual in modern world to have a sultan who speaks some different language and people speak other language. It's like
I think it's just High language. Obviously, in these times, anyone can speak High Japanese, but practically, like anyone can study Latin. But who speaks Latin?
Yes. Well, some people still maybe in Vatican.
Yeah.
Yes, same kind of thing.
In biology classes.
Yes. What about Java script? Is it different from Latin script? What's the difference?
It's different. It's wiggly. Like it's not Latin script.
Is it syllabical? Like you write syllables or you write letters?
I actually don't know this, but I think it's syllabical. I should look this up. I have never learned it because
you have never learned.
Yeah, because in Jakarta, I went to school in Jakarta. In Jakarta, they don't teach traditional languages, which is a shame.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but in Javanese, like Central Java, they teach Javanese and they learn to write it. And I heard a lot of stories of people doing poorly, even though they speak Javanese every day. And a lot of people these days just write Javanese with Latin letters. Yeah, like it's just verbal mostly, I think. Indonesian as well is a very verbal language. Like the difference between there's a lot of difference between written Indonesian and spoken Indonesian.
There's a big difference. Okay.
Yeah. Like usually,
not like in Russian that you can understand what's written. Okay.
If you hear me talk in Indonesian and I write it down, it's not formal at all.
Okay.
And like if I saw that text on a news site, I would actually be mad. That is really terrible Indonesian. Like for written.
So we have two languages in Indonesian, like spoken and written.
Yeah, well, I think it's more like Venn diagram, like this. This is spoken Indonesian and this is written Indonesian. Of course, if you speak written Indonesian, people will probably just look at you funny. But yeah, that's very much understandable, obviously.
Do the religious choice influence on the language choice? So, do you study, for example, if you're Muslim, you study Arabic, or if you're other religion, you study, for example, Sanskrit or maybe Latin or something like this?
I can only speak for myself, but at least in state-owned schools, a lot of don't teach Arabic. But like at schools, there's no like, oh, Muslims go learn Arabic and I don't know about Hindu, but at schools there's no such choice. But if you wanna learn it like outside of school, it probably matters. Because like, oh, I'm a Muslim and I wanna study the Quran, so I should learn Arabic. I mean, definitely it might play a certain role in some of people's choices, but like systematically, I don't think it really matters. Usually they teach foreign language other than English. I think by now English is taught in at least middle school and high school. In Jakarta, they teach it as well in elementary school, but I don't know about other regions. But in high school, some schools, at least in Jakarta, they also offer another choice of foreign language.
Not only English.
Usually French and German.
But what about the religion in the education? Is it included in the education system or not? Like,
yeah, it is. I can only say about state schools because I went all to state schools. Yeah, we do learn a religion, but religion is usually just not, okay, everyone of all religions sit down, we're going to study about all of the religions in the world. No, the majority of us are Muslims. So what usually happens is, okay, the teacher comes into the room and the kids who are not Muslim go out to study in another room, and they have another teacher there. Usually.
The second religion is Buddhism, yes? Oh, no.
It's either Catholic or Protestant.
Okay.
I think.
And the Hindu, it's not so popular now.
In Bali, it's very much popular. Most popular in Bali, I think. Well, at least there are more churches than temples. So yeah, I can only mention one temple in Jakarta, but a lot of churches in Jakarta and even more mosques. So yeah.
Multi-religion region. Can you distinguish people from different regions of Indonesia? Like just hearing what they say?
Yeah, usually if they've only lived in Jakarta, like in Jakarta there are a lot of ethnicities. Like maybe if like they've lived their whole life in another city different than mine, I probably can hear it, especially if it's really apparent. Oh, actually, I had a teacher in high school who already lived in Jakarta for a very long time, but his accent is still very apparent. He probably doesn't try to change it what for anyway, right? People from Batak, that's ethnicity in North Sumatra, a lot of them don't say, we have A and E, right? Sometimes they don't say the A. The Indonesian word for like is seperti. instead of saying seperti, they say seperti.
And you can hear it, and they have less vowels than you.
Yeah, I mean they write it the same way, and we don't have difference between and a when it's written. But like sometimes it's like that, and sometimes it's the accent. Probably some of them are like on TV. It's probably sometimes like they're being extra with it. But sometimes you can hear the accent. Like when I speak Indonesian, some people say that they can hear my accent, Java accent, even though I've lived in Jakarta my whole life, probably, like most of my life. But my family is Javanese, so I think some people can hear my Javanese accent. You can sometimes even tell people from different parts of Java, like East Javanese accent is different from the accent from Yogyakarta and Central Java, and even in Central Java they don't have just one accent, they still have accent of Pantura. Pantura, pantai, it's an acronym of Pantai Utara, it's northern shores. I mean it is a very important network of roads, just like the Silk Road, but on Java. I think Javanese people usually can tell their accents apart.
And now I want to ask you some questions about the grammar. Do you have a system of tenses in Bahasa Indonesa, or it's like something that you express lexically?
No, we don't. We just notify it by saying the time. Kemarin saya pergi, yesterday I go. There's no difference in go and went. Everything is just go.
No future, no present, no past. No. How do you express who is the subject, who is the object? It's by word order, or you have something like cases in Russian or German?
No. It's just word order. Yeah. Just word order.
The subject goes first.
Yep.
And then goes the verb and then the object.
For example, essays quickly. Saya menulis esai dengan cepat. Quickly at last.
I know you use reduplication to make a plural. Like kata, like words. Is it universal rule for Indonesian language? Like is this every word you can make the plural this way, or it's like only for some words?
No, there's a difference with like the Indonesian for heart is hati, but hati-hati is not hearts, it's be careful. Yeah. And sometimes vegetables is not vegetable is sayur, but vegetables is not sayur, it's sayur mayur.
Wow.
Something, it's those are a lot of exceptions about this, I think. And when you have a certain unit, usually you don't have to say the repetition. Like a kilo of apples, you don't have to say 1 kilogram apple, satu is 1. You just say 1 kilogram apple. Because it's obvious. Well, except you have a very big apple.
But in the rest of the cases, it's like universal rule. If you say the reduplication, it means that it's plural.
If it's nouns, I think yeah.
But you can use it for other words, not only nouns.
I can think of memukul-mukul is to hit repeatedly. Then memukul is to hit.
Do you have prepositions or postpositions?
No postposition. No.
Only preposition.
I've never heard that in my life.
And you put adjective. You have adjectives.
Yes.
Like a category. You put adjectives before the noun or after the noun?
After the noun. Like French.
No. Oh, okay. What's your experience of studying Russian? Do you find it so much different from Indonesian, or it has some similarities? How do you say?
I think I found more similarities between German and Russian than Indonesian and Russian, because the similarities that I can mention on top of my head right now between Indonesian and Russian is the word rayon. Just that. But like between German and Russian, a lot.
But do you think Russian is like chaotic or ordinary, like it has a system, or it's like more exceptions? Because I think that Indonesian language is more systematic than Russian.
Well, I haven't really grasped the pattern of Russian yet. It's much easier to grasp German. It's more mathematical, I think. And when they want to make a new word, they just add two words together. That's why we have such great words like Schadenfreude. And in Russian, you have a word for everything. It's kind of chaotic for me, personally. And Indonesian, I think at the top of it is quite systematic and simple. But once you actually get deeper inside of it, there's some things that just this doesn't really feel right there. Like this is more proper and stuff like that. But the general rule is quite simple and systematic enough, I think. But like when you go deeper, sometimes there's like little exceptions. But like, well, if you want to speak properly, the basic system is probably enough. But like if you want to write really well and stuff like that, you probably need to go deeper than that. I think it's like that in most languages anyway. Yeah. Well, I've never actually learned two languages the same way. Like Indonesian is my first language, and then a lot of some Japanese, and I learned English for a very long time by myself, and I learned German. But I didn't really have practice in German outside of class, right? But I do have a lot of Russian. I listen to metro announcements, and there's no metro announcements in Indonesia, in German especially. Yeah, I think so that you do need to learn more Russian, because Indonesian, I think, is very verbal language.
Thank you very much. Спасибо большое, Раиса. Нам было очень интересно узнать об индонезийском языке. Надеюсь, что следующий язык будет не менее интересным. До свидания.